Okay. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for the Chamber Skills Series presentation, Get Engaged with Virtual Tools. We are able to provide this offering to our members free of charge because of the generosity of our sponsor, Lake Superior College. Speaking today on behalf of Lake Superior College is Daniel Fanning, Vice President of Institutional Advancement and External Relations. Turn it over to you, Dan.
Hey, Bailey, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Just on behalf of Lake Superior College, I just want to thank really Bailey and the entire team at the Chamber for organizing this and putting this together. I'm proud to both work at LSC, but also be a Chamber board member. And it's offerings like this that just contribute to the work that you guys do in the community and helping the business community. So we're just really proud to be part of this. I know we're in for a treat today because we know Elissa Hansen well, and we work with her and her team at Northspan. So we look forward to hearing from her. But thanks for the opportunity and thanks for pulling it together, Bailey. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker today, Elissa Hansen. Elissa is the president and CEO of Northspan. Thank you for speaking for us today, Elissa, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Bailey. I'm going to share my screen with the group, and I'll be popping out in and out of sharing my screen in a variety of ways, but asking for your grace and patience here. I'm just going to make sure I've got the chat box open and can see your lovely faces. All right. Okay, well, thanks for being here with me today. Obviously, we're here to talk about virtual tools, and here we go. And I'm going to try to make it fun. So you'll get to see the different tools that we're using, and hopefully also have some fun. So I had this earlier. This said good morning. I had to change it right before I sent it to Bailey. I feel like noon is still morning for me, but we'll get into it. So just a real quick overview of our agenda. I'm going to go through some of the tips and tricks that I use in every meeting when I'm utilizing Zoom right here at the beginning, just like how to set the stage for these virtual meetings, I think can be really helpful. We're going to break out and we'll do some introductions in small groups for everybody that's here. So we won't do a full round for everyone, but we'll do it in small groups. And then I'm going to dive into a couple different tools for you guys to check out, and you will utilize them. And then I'll show you the back end so you can see how I think these two are really simple and very intuitive, so they can be really helpful if you're trying to engage. One's called Menti, then Mural, and then we'll just debrief for a little bit at the end. So when you're zooming in, it's not easy. I've got two screens too, just so you know, I'm looking back and forth here a little bit. But zooming in can be hard. Like, we're doing it some places all day. You're 9 hours in, maybe 4-hour meetings at a time. It's nice when you only have to do 60 or 90 minutes and you can kind of keep things straight in your head. But zooming in can be hard. It can be very cluster feeling throughout the day. So one of the slides that I use all the time at the beginning of meetings or discussions that we're holding is just agreements on how to hold that effective meeting space. Now, what works really well in this little slide here is you could do this for on camera or off camera. What's nice when you're doing these smaller groups is if we're going to break out into smaller groups, reminding everybody to turn on their camera if they can, is really helpful. When you're in those small groups, you can have a little bit more discussion. You can see people's faces. However, with internet issues the way they are, and everyone's are so different, if you didn't already know this, if you're having issues, which looks like most of you do know this, you can turn your camera off and it'll help from a variety of different components with your broadband connection. But also, if you're still having issues, let us know in the chat box, because then I'll ask more people to turn off their cameras, or I might even turn mine off so that the slides are working really well. And then the last thing on here that I think is really nice to just call to the top of the list when you're doing this virtual space is that have grace with yourself and others. I already warned Bailey, I've had some computer issues the last few days. And so if I disappear for a moment in Zoom and you lose that shared screen, I promise I'll be back. It's happened a couple of times where Zoom just kicks me out and then I'm kicked back in about 8 seconds later. So having grace with ourselves, knowing that there might be kids and dogs and all kinds of things behind your screen, and then letting you really manage your mute. I will only mute you if something crazy is going on and I need to mute everybody so that we can hear each other and pay attention. So it's just nice to lay the groundwork. Then I have a screen like this. That can also be really helpful when you're Zooming in with folks. I think I get into a lot of different meetings and, you know, we're all using WebEx, we're using Zoom, we're using a variety of different products, Teams, and they're all different. We might all be getting used to the virtual space, but every one of those tools, where the chat box is, how you view participants in the gallery or just who's speaking, it's all a little different. So having a slide like this to say, hey, if you haven't been on Zoom for a while, the chat's down here at the bottom. And if you want to ask any questions, Bailey is helping with that. So please put those questions in the chat. I will be stopping and giving time so that you could verbalize questions as well. But this is a nice way, you know, sometimes it takes people a little while to figure out where that chat is, especially if they're using their phone or their iPad, or they've got two screens. It's a little bit different for everybody. So, whoops. So what I want to do now, we've got a good group here. I'm going to split us out into groups. Give me just a moment here. And when you get into that group, this is what I want you to do. So I'll make sure everybody gets there, but in your group, there'll probably be 5 groups about, and there'll be either 3 or 4 of you in a group. When you get there, share your, you know, go around in a circle. If you want somebody to be the guide, you guys can choose that. Go around a circle and just what's your name? What business or organization do you work with? What do you do? And then share your story. So did you grow up here in Duluth? Did you leave and come back? Did you choose to move here? Just what's your story about coming to Duluth, or your staying here? Sorry, I'm just getting, okay, here we go. So I'm going to break you out into groups. I'm going to stop this share. So you won't have that screen. So when you get there, name, organization, what you do, and what your story is coming to Duluth. So I'm going to break you guys out. And if we get people that start to join after we break out, I'll put them into rooms. So you might randomly get someone that pops into your room, just so you know. And here we go. So creating that room. So you should see a little blue or red thing to click on that says join the breakout room. So go ahead and I'll stay behind, make sure everybody gets in. All right, now we've got everybody back. So obviously many of you have probably been in breakout rooms, but it is a really nice tool. And so I just want to, I'm not going to ask about your stories. Hopefully you had a nice time getting to know each other. And just a little bit about, you know, like what can Zoom do? So this is one thing that you can do, is create those breakout rooms. Also today, Bailey and I use the waiting room technique. So when people are trying to get into our virtual space, she's able to make sure, yeah, that's a legit person that registered, and she's got them in a waiting room and approving them to come into that space. That can be really, really nice for RSVP tracking if you have to do that for whatever event or whatever conversation you're having. Those breakout rooms, you can actually set them up ahead of time. So if you have your RSVPs, you know those people are coming, you can set up those break rooms ahead of time to make sure you're putting certain people together to have whatever that conversation is. Zoom also has a whiteboards tool component in it. So when you're in those breakout rooms, you could be having a discussion and, you know, taking notes in that whiteboard to bring it back to the group. It also has some poll tools. So asking questions, gaining consensus on different items, it can be really valuable. And as you know, we've got the chat capability, and not sure if everyone knows this, but you've got those nonverbal cues. So if you go over to where your, you know, participant name is, you can actually, yeah, you can give a thumbs up. I see Zane. You can make, you know, put your hand up if you've got a question. So Bailey and I are watching for both of those things. So as we're going along, you have questions, feel free to do that. You can use the little celebration tools and the nonverbal clues as well, which tend to be along that bottom area right where that chat is. So Zoom has a lot of really great things it can do. So do WebEx and Teams and some of the other things. But I find that when you're going out into a public space, Zoom tends to be the most user-friendly. So that's my preference when I'm doing community engagement. Internally, we have teams as well. So, it just kind of depends on what your preference is and what you've gotten skilled at using. All right, so we're going to head into our next tool. But as I'm getting that set up, does anybody have any questions or curiosities at this point? I don't think we have anything in the chat.
Can I ask a question, Elissa, or would you rather have it in a chat?
No, you can verbalize and ask. Absolutely.
Okay. With Zoom, when you make somebody a co-host, and you have a host and a co-host, have you had any experience like who can set up the polls? I mean, that's one of the things, like, if I'm the host, am I the only one that can do the poll and launch it? Or have you had any experience with that? I guess I'm curious.
Yeah, when you're the host, so the owner of that account that's setting up the original meeting is the only one that can create the poll. So like I was telling Bailey that, like, right now, I'm the co-host and I'm invited into this space, but I can't create polls. So it is the only one that can do it is the person who owns that account, because you set it up when you're setting up the meeting. It's at the very bottom where you can like add branding to the registration. If you're doing a registration, you can see where people have signed up, and it's in that area where you can set up those polls. And they have a variety of options, so it's not just like pick A, B, C, or D. You can do multiple choice. You can add, what are your top 3, things like that. So it's not like really amazing, but it has some flexibility. Any other questions? All right. So for this one, Mentimeter, you're going to want to, some of you might have 2 screens. If you just have your laptop, if you can grab your cell phone, or if you have an iPad or something like that, you're just going to want another screen where you can open a second browser. And before we dive into it, when you get that open, you want to go to that on the bottom, www.menti.com. And when you get to that screen, it's going to ask for you to enter that code. You don't have to put the spaces in there. They just did that for a visual. So 7648214. And when you enter that code in there, a question is going to pop up. So I just want to give a little bit of time and see if everyone is able to get there before I keep going. You should see, yeah, I see everybody's getting there. You should see this question popping up. Got lots of dog lovers. And you can see here in the corner, 4 people have responded. So I just want to make sure I'm giving enough time. You can get that into your second device. Let us know what your favorite furry office mate is. So this polling tool is my favorite. You have a lot of options, and we're going to do a few questions. You're going to be able to see some of those options. However, you kind of have to know your crowd. Are they going to be a crowd that probably has that second device accessible or near them? Are they going to, be able to get to that website easily or not? It really can depend, right? So knowing your crowd can really be helpful. I love all of our squirrel colleagues. I voted the same as you. So here's another. Come on, you. Here we go. So the next question should be popping up on your device. One season to rule them all. What's your favorite season? It's just another way to show how you use this. This one, instead of the circle, has a pie chart. It has the ability to do bars. So visually, it has a lot of options. This tool is also, I want to say it's less than $200 for sure for the year, if not 100 or so. So if you're using it a lot, it's a really good value. And everything I'm doing today just comes with that very base price too, which is really nice, because a lot of these tools can be really spendy. And that's not the easiest for anyone. So lots of fall and summer people here. You're my people. Oh yeah. Awesome. All right, so next one should be popping up on your phone. So favorite winter activities. This is letting you put in 3 different answers. So you don't have to glob them all into one line, just put different activities in each line and then submit. I think it'll let you do it more than once also if you want. So we'll see here. I'm going to enter mine as well. There we go. Nice. I like the naps. Yeah, so it'll let you put in 3. I knew I set one up differently. So this is pretty cool. Different winter activities in Duluth. Just a different, interesting way to look at it, right? A word cloud. So this also, not only does it have different components and how to utilize and show the data, but you also can utilize a different design. So I'm choosing the white with the different colors. There's like 6, I think, different color schemes and fonts that you can use. And if you want it to be branded for your company or your organization, you can do that as well with this tool, which is kind of cool. So winter activities, skating, snowshoeing, hiking, skiing, ice skating, nice. All right, so same question, different season, summer activities in Duluth. Let's see what your thoughts are. Oh, I see some questions. So while people are putting in, hopefully, oh yeah, that should have launched. So while people are putting in that, I see Zane asked, do you have access to the data after meeting on Mentimeter? Yes, and you can download it a couple different ways, which is really nice. So I've used this with groups between 50 and 80 people, where we've had to pull all that data and then turn it into a document that can be presentable. And so what's really nice is you can download the exact screenshots that we're seeing here at the end, but also the you can download it into Excel. I think they might allow CVS or CSV files or whatever as well. So that's really nice if you're needing to use the data in a variety of different ways. And then, are you navigating this while you are hosting the meeting? I am. This is live. So the screen you're seeing right now, I'm gonna, when we're done with this, we just have one more, I think. But when we're done with this, I'll show you the behind the scenes as well of this tool, which is pretty cool. So swimming, hiking, cabin, reading, lovely. So this one, just a little bit of fun, a little bit more difficult. If you didn't answer any of the questions, you can always just then go to the next slide. So if 3 statements here and you slide it closer to strongly agree or strongly disagree, if you're the best cook in the house, you're the best at clearing your sidewalk on your block, maybe you're best at puzzles in your house. So this can be really interesting for tougher subjects in a political environment. Use this a lot with different types of EDAs or city councils because it's a really great way to spur some conversation based on, setting up what those questions are with the client ahead of time, or your internal organization. So got a lot of good sidewalk clears. Ooh, also puzzles, but maybe not so much the cooks. Oh no, bad sidewalk clears down here at 2.1. That's awesome. All right. So last one. So this is another way to see it. So write the first words that pop in your head when I say it's the perfect Duluth day, and you will be able to submit multiple answers. So you can submit as many as you want and see how it pops up in kind of these word blobs. And as it fills up, it should scroll up. So this can be really fun when you're trying to create consensus or do exactly what we're doing. Like this is, I'm going to take all this information and then send it to Bailey after, because why not? The chamber might be able to use what you guys have to say. So when it starts to fill up, I do actually have to scroll it so you can keep seeing what people are putting in. So that's almost all the different ways to gather questions on here. There are a couple more I didn't use, but in each of those, there are different ways to display it. So this could be the word bubbles. It can be just kind of all conglomerating, coming in together. So it's pretty awesome, the different ways you can share that data to the group. All right. So at the end of our presentation, here's what I want to be able to show you. So behind the scenes, when you just create a new one, the screen prior to this is just create a new one. You can then view what this looks like, how we answered it. Here's where you can download those results. There's a few different ways to do that. Once you created them, you could edit them and put in different words here. And what I love about it is you want to add that next slide. You just add the slide, it pops down here. So when you first did that very first one, oh, I just accidentally deleted it. Sorry, guys. So here are all the different types. And as you're scrolling over, it even shows you right in the middle, which is kind of cool, and describes, sometimes you know what the question is you want to ask, but you're not really sure what kind of format to put it in, to make sure you're getting the data out in a way that you need. So it's nice to be able to look at this ahead of time and just get a feel for how you might want that question to be downloadable at the end. So just want to stop for a minute, see if anyone has any questions or if they want me to scroll over anything here in particular. Happy to answer.
I missed question today, I guess, Elissa, but do you set up your questions ahead of time for the most part?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For the most part, it's built into the script, whatever we're talking about. I have on occasion, especially if we've got breaks or it's a long session, I might be doing a full day or 2-3 hour sessions with breaks across the day. It allows you, right, to go back in and build something different. So if a conversation took a turn or all of a sudden people are talking about certain things, that's what's really nice about the tool is, like you just saw, I can pop back in there, build that extra 2 slides, and then you can start the presentation. Like if we, trying to get it to go back over there, sorry. If I only did the first 3 at the beginning of the day, and now we're going to do these, you just put it right on that slide and start your presentation. So many times this is, 30 or 40 questions. I might be repeating the style of questions because we have 4 different conversations, but we're going to ask the same types of questions after each one. So you can pop in and out of here, stop it from showing up on the device that they're using, and then pop it back up throughout that conversation or the day, depending on the meeting, which is really nice.
We had another question from Chris Johnson.
Yes.
And she says, do you have to toggle between a PowerPoint and the Mentimeter questions, or can you somehow incorporate the live results into your PowerPoint?
The only way you could incorporate them into your PowerPoint is if you screenshotted it at the end and like through it, like if you were using an online, like an Office 365 for your PowerPoint, that wouldn't be so hard. PowerPoint draws a lot of power during sessions, especially if you're using Office 365 version. So you might have noticed right now, I actually don't use PowerPoint. I save it when I'm all done into a PDF, which uses very little power to, display. So it works a lot better to be able to toggle back and forth. And that's all I'm doing right here is just clicking back and forth between the live site and the PowerPoint, but I have it as a PDF so that it uses less of that power. I've got a pretty strong computer, so it does it to a lot of folks. And those sites, because it's live, it just depends on your internet connection. So it can be a little slower if you have a rough internet connection to be able to show that. So in the past, sometimes in our team, I might be in charge of the PDF, but then Carl or Amanda might be in charge of the Menti, so it's not using the same computer's power. To try to be as streamlined as we can be, which can be pretty hard sometimes. Any other questions? All right. Oops. Okay, so you don't have to go to this website. I am going to put the actual link into the chat. But what we're going to do, this is one of my ultimate favorite tools. So some of you might know, but a lot of the work I do usually is face-to-face. We're in rooms, we're in different spaces. We've got whiteboards on the giant post-its on the wall with tons of little post-its. We're creating ideas. We're coming up with solutions. We might be doing strategic planning. And so that is a messy process. And part of it is everyone putting their ideas in places. How to take that concept and go virtual was really hard at first, trying to find the right tool. When I found this tool, I was so excited. So it's called Mural, and you could go check it out, obviously, right now if you wanted, but it's .co, not .com. It took me like 3 months to just remember that and then finally save it into my bookmarks. But when I put this up on the chat, I'm going to give you a link that'll actually bring us to a mural space together. So you'll all have access to it. I'm going to try to get everybody in there. And if some people have an issue getting in there, I'll still share my screen if people want to see it from that place. But my goal is to break you out into groups. I'll read through those instructions before we break out. You're going to go into just 2 groups. So you'll have a larger group to brainstorm with. And then you're going to do some activities in there. So you'll actually be able to use the tool and see how it works. And so I am going to pull that up and read through these instructions with you live here before I break you out. And I know that's probably really small, so just hang on. But at first I want you to just see this space. So you've got basically some large whiteboards over here. And I've already put 2 Post-its on there. It's, you know, first time using it, it's going to work great for some and not so great for others. So this is a space. I'm going to give you a decent amount of time to just like mess around in this tool. But what you do is you just double click to create a Post-it. And then you can barely see it. It's really, well, you probably can't see it very at all, but when you create that Post-it right in the middle, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here for you. It'll automatically put in the cursor, but it's really light. So it's there, don't worry. So you just type your idea. And then if you already had Post-its, so like you could go make a few and then put ideas on, you just have to click back in. And sometimes you have to click twice so that you see the cursor. So I'm going to delete these out of here. And then to delete them, you can highlight it, click delete on your keyboard, or up here, there's a little kind of undo button. Either one of those works. So when we break out, you'll be in team 1 and team 2. Just if you're in room 1, you're in team 1. If you're in room 2, you're in team 2. When we do the breakout, we'll get you all to this space. You're going to pick a guide in your group. So somebody who's willing to try to use the tool as much as they can. And you could have multiple people try to do it when you break out. You're gonna just read that question, and then everyone's gonna take a few minutes to brainstorm. So take that time to try to make the Post-its, put your ideas on the Post-its. The question is what's required in your space to ensure work-life harmony. Shoot for 15 ideas in your group in that team space that's on there. And then once you have those ideas, the person who's going to be the guide is going to be taking those Post-its, and you're going to choose first the 3 to 5 that are like the clearest, really easy to understand. They'll probably all be pretty easy. So just pick 3 to 5 that are on the top of your list. And that guide, and you guys can, multiple people can do it, will just slide that over into the box, and it'll place it in there for you. So you'll put 3 to 5 in the orange box and then 3 to 5 in the blue box. And after that's done, and I'll be in the space with you, so I'll be able to see how people are doing and I'll come in and out of your rooms and help you out. Then we'll pull it back to the main Zoom room, and I'll show you a couple cool other little bits of this tool. So give me 2 seconds here, and I'm going to get you the link and try to get everybody into that space. I'm going to plug it into the chat box. Give me just a second. Not people in there. Okay, everyone in the meeting. So this link in the chat box, some of you will be able to just click on that link and it'll open the web page. Some of you may have to copy and paste out. That's something I haven't figured out in Zoom, why it does it for some and not others. But I can see people coming in. So if you're in there, you're looking like the anonymous little turtle and the raccoon and all these different things. So don't start doing anything yet till we break you out in groups. But just making sure people get in there. It looks like it's working for the most part. So I'm going to break you out into 2 groups. Room 1, work in the team 1 area. Room 2, work in the team 2 area. And give me 2 seconds, we'll break you out and I'll come in there, help out. Recreate these rooms. We're just going to do 2. And here you go. So you should see the little button to go into the breakout room. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to make sure I can help people get into those breakout rooms. Here we go. Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully you had fun. I'm going to give you some pointers here on how best to use this tool and then see, if anybody has any questions. Just give me just a second. Okay, got you all set up here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So, first time in, it's not easy, right? Like, how do you get the right post-it? But then once you start figuring it out, I see, there we go. People started putting them in different colors, using different shapes. So you can see how this can be really fun from a community engagement perspective when people figure out the tool. It can be difficult because a lot of people might not, used a tool like this, so it can be pretty intimidating at first. So some of the tricks of the trade that I do for that is this. I send a survey to a lot of clients ahead of time, asking whatever this question is, whatever the component is that we're doing, and we get all their answers back, and we pre-fill out the Post-its. So when they go into that space, they're reading them all, having a conversation about what might be missing, maybe adding a few, and then they're putting them into that clearest idea in different idea boxes. The nice thing about those boxes and why we do that is it gives a place to start for the conversation. Oh, hang on 2 seconds. I want to be able to show you this. I locked it so you guys wouldn't move it. But once you put them in there, you can move this whole block with everything in it, which is really nice. So once everything's in these 2 blocks, then I pull over all the Post-its. So you can also highlight all the Post-its and you can move them all together. So there's some really nice tools to, once you're doing a lot, I use this a lot for consensus workshops. So you get everything in the orange one, blue one, and then I put everything that's left below. Then for this concept, it's like, oh, what are the top 5 things? And like, how do we pull them together? So we go through a consensus workshop model. There's a lot of different ways you could use this tool, but this setup is kind of for that setup. I wanted to be able to show you behind the scenes on here. So you're going to get a little insight. Nothing here matters that you see it, but so you can see I've used that style a few times, but there are a lot of other different styles in there for different types of conversations. And some of these are like these that you're seeing here, for the most part, I've created and made, and then I've shared with other people. But in here, there's like as many templates as you can possibly imagine. So if you're trying to do any kind of brainstorming, you almost have something to start with, and they're relatively easy to edit. So like a Word template or a publisher template, sometimes they're not that easy to edit. I would say this actually is easier than some of those things. So I'm going to just go back to our mural here.
There's just a couple of questions too in the
chat.
Yeah,
I'm going to pull it back up and then we'll go into questions here. All right, what do you got? I think they're probably in the chat. I don't have the chat up, so I'll let you.
No worries. From Zane, have you ever used idea boards in your testing ideas?
I haven't used that tool. I've been a participant of that tool, which was fun, but that is a cool one too.
And then from Jen, she is asking, what is the cost for this?
It's in that same range. It's less than $200 for the year, I'm pretty sure. Now you've got me curious. But if you go to that website, it's another nice thing about a lot of these tools, like they're not hiding the cost. And that one does have just so many options. And I think, I'm just looking quick really here. There is a free version. So like, for instance, you guys all could just used mine right there. So the nice thing is it gives you that share link. And the only thing that is different is you're not seeing, like that it's Elissa or whatever. You're all just little monkeys or whatever whatever they give you, monkey, lizard, blah, blah, blah. So every time I go in, I have to go into a different place to look at the price. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it's also affordable like the other one. And this, as far as unlimited, you can do crazy amounts of stuff in here that you would normally do in a, live conversation. It's really about how you set up that space so that people can use it based on, your crowd, who's your audience, and how comfortable it might be with the tech. Carl and I also will often put people in groups and have a conversation with them before, and maybe do a tiny bit of pre-training, and they're the guides. So they're not going to see anything ahead of time as far as the content because they're going to participate, but we'll show them how to use the tools. So they have the very basics of like moving things around, creating another post-it, so that we have someone in each of the rooms that's really comfortable with it. And generally I send them that share link and let them play with it. And then like 2 days later, ask if they, were they able to figure out, do they have any questions? So that's another really nice thing about that share link. None of you have to have the tool to participate or to be a co-host or a guide in it. Bailey, awesome. Bailey just clicked and put in the pricing link. I think there was one other. I can't remember if there's a free version. Zane, on that pricing link, I bet it'll tell us. It just, for me, it won't let me look at it because I'm logged in. It's so weird.
It said there's a free trial from what I'm looking at.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
a start free trial, but I don't know if there's a specific free version.
Yeah, I did do the trial at first as well because I took a couple trainings on it, and they actually have a lot of options to train on it. So I had it free. I had participated in a few prior. We were using this tool actually prior to COVID, and then it's became basically everyday tool almost. I am creating one of these almost weekly for clients to be able to use and work in. But I'm pretty sure, let's see. Yeah. So the version I have is the cheapest one, whatever that is. It's like $12 a month.
Yep,
so,
$12 a month.
Yeah. It's a pretty inexpensive tool if you're using this, utilizing this kind of concept. So last thing I have here, we just have a couple more minutes. I'm just curious, like, when's your next virtual team meeting or session? Do you think you'd use any of these tools? Happy to share more, after this session. If you're ever curious about what it is, I do end up giving some free 10-minute trainings on a pretty regular basis to friends, family, and colleagues that are just trying to figure out how to use these tools. So I know Bailey will share my contact information if you don't already have it. Anybody want to share what they're thinking? Will they use it? Oh, I see some thumbs. Awesome.
I think it's great. I just love them both. And I wish I would have had I wish I would have had the mental capacity to search this out when we were doing some community work. I used it a lot of SurveyMonkey in between to get information from people, but I love, what you've done, Elissa, and this was super helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, so I use SurveyMonkey a lot to help fill out the post-its ahead of time. It's pretty accessible for most people. I have run into some organizations. We went away from using the Google Forms or Google survey option because a lot of our larger employers are not allowed to use Google, interestingly enough. And then a lot of larger cities are not even large. Some of our rural cities, they're not allowed to use Zoom. So you kind of have to just make sure you know the tools you're using, who can use them, depending on the crowd that you're working with. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to want to make sure I end on time, and Bailey has closeout comments probably.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. And that was a very, very helpful presentation. And I know I learned a lot, and I'm excited to be able to utilize everything I learned today. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, everybody have a great week.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.